So, first question I get a lot is how much is my spouse going to get for the business, right? Number one question, oh, they're going to take half of everything. And a lot of this depends on the state. How these rules are done, this is not a federal rule, these are all state. And depending on what state you're in, some of these are by county and even more specifically. So, depending on what state you're in, is how this is going to be treated. Don't ask your friend in Texas how his divorce went if you're in Alabama, right? It's going to be different. Does that mean that if you ask someone else in the state that your divorce is going to be the exact same thing? No, but at least the state side will. It also depends on when you started your business, right? If you started your business 2 years after you and your spouse got married, do not ask someone what happened on their divorce when they got divorced and they had a premarital asset. If you started your business before you got married, in most states, different treatment than if you got married before you started the business. So the timing of this makes a big difference. Generally, if you have this stuff before you get married, it's treated a lot differently than if you get it afterwards. Also, if you're married for a year, your spouse is going to be subject or entitled to much less than if you were married for 40 years, right? So it depends on the state. It depends on when you started your business. It depends on how long you've been together with your spouse. It depends on if your spouse works or not, right? Because the courts are going to look at a divorce situation a lot differently if the husband and wife are both earning the same amount and there is a reasonable expectation that that's going to continue in the future. That is going to be treated a lot different than when one of the spouse works and the other one has never worked. Okay, Hunt, but seriously, right? There's a lot of caveats here. What does this generally end up looking like? It depends on the state. It depends on where you started. It depends on if your spouse works or not. I shouldn't say every situation. 95% of the situations on this, it works out kind of how you would expect. It all gets looped together and each of you gets half. A lot of states allow you to go both ways. When you have a buy-sell agreement in a divorce situation, you can sometimes exercise this both ways. It's not that common. I haven't seen it done for a lot of reasons. But generally, if you go back and you say, hey, I'm going to give you $800,000 for your business, you can say the same thing of, I don't really want it. So you're going to have to give me $800,000 for my business and you get to keep it. If your wife never worked in that business, doesn't know what to do, yeah, the courts aren't going to allow you to do that. You both work in the shop, you both do the same things. Doesn't mean one of you has to keep it versus the other ones.